What is up, guys? The Crimson Defender back here with another video, and today I was originally going to do the France video, but with how well the last video did and because I'm having some trouble with that video, today we're going to talk about the next character being added to Rivals, Blade. Now if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel as well so I can keep making more videos like this, and without further ado, we will see you there. Now, Blade just got introduced formally about a day ago, and he's coming to the game next Friday, and trust me, I'm extremely excited for that. I feel like with his moveset, he's going to be my main, or at least a character I'm really good at. His ultimate looks really good, but here's the main problem for me, is that once again, Blade is a DPS, and that sounds like that should not be a problem. But in a game with just over 40 characters now, he is now going to be the 22nd DPS. And as a certified quick play warrior myself, having another DPS is the last thing I want. Especially if I'm trying to go Doctor Strange or Luna Snow, because I've had situations where the entire team decided to insta-lock the most brain-dead characters. And then they're surprised when the opposing team wipes the floor with us like any team playing the Steelers in the wildcard round. Like, I'm actually trying to do stuff and y'all out here insta-locking Spider-Man, Squirrel Girl, Moon Knight, Iron Man, and Scarlet Witch, and you wonder why we lost. But is this overload of DPS really a problem? Let's dive into it right now. So first, we're going to get the statistics out the way, and we're going to start with the game that inspired the entire premise of Marvel Rivals, Overwatch. Now, correct me if I'm wrong because I do not play the game, but after looking it up on the internet, there are 13 tanks, 19 DPS, and 11 healers, which means the DPS category makes up a little bit over 44% of the game's 43 characters, which is still kind of abysmal, but 13, 19, and 11 are much closer than the Rivals numbers, which has 10 tanks, 9 healers, and 22 DPS. Which means DPS takes up almost 54% of the entire roster, which is even more insane when you realize the healers make up less than a quarter of the roster at about 22%. And what makes this situation even worse is the fact that a lot of the game's most broken characters, and often the game's easiest characters to learn, are DPS, with the exception of my main man Jeff, because he's just like that. Which again, especially in quick play, leads to a lot of teams being consistent of 3, 4, or sometimes 5 DPS, often leaving one person to solo tank and sometimes even one person solo healing. This even reigns true for myself, as my main overall is still Iron Fist, which at one point was one of the most broken characters in the entire game. I have since gotten at least one main in each category in order to best suit my team, but often the best teams are the ones who are balanced with 2 tanks, 2 DPS, and 2 healers. Now, the tank category on the surface level, most, if not all of Marvel's villains would fit into this role quite well. A lot of them have been in Marvel Rivals, but not as playable characters, and I think it's time to give some of them a chance to shine. The most likely these villains to come to this game is probably Doctor Doom, as he's a pivotal character in the MCU right now, and he's had a little bit of dabbling in the Marvel Rivals series as well, making him the obvious choice for tank. Another one is the previous big bad of the MCU, which is Thanos, which you could definitely build a good moveset around him, and the Infinity Stones. His only complication being that him and his famous snap as his ultimate probably isn't the best idea, considering Doctor Strange is in this game and he has the Time Stone, but I digress. There's a lot more I could say, but there's one more tank I want to talk about, just because I don't think a lot of people know who this character is, not as much as the characters in the MCU. However, Rivals has been doing a lot of these characters justice, and I think it would be really cool to see Luke Cage as a tank. Now, the healer role is a little bit harder to pinpoint, as most of the healers in the game aren't really healers in their own right anyway. A great example of this is Loki. Another great example is Rocket, even Jeff to an extent. But for that reason, I feel like if Deadpool does get introduced to the game, and I feel like he will, he would be a pretty good healer. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about to possibly fix this DPS epidemic was to switch some current DPS to another role that could possibly suit them. Trigger warning for all Rivals players, but especially tank mains, but I think two good candidates for tanks are Punisher and Wolverine. Punisher probably has the slightly easier rework, as you just need to give him more health and make his attacks generally weaker, and maybe get rid of the turret altogether. Wolverine is a bit more difficult because he moves around like a feral fucking dog, so his rework would have to be a full rework, because I think the last thing that any player would want to see is not only a feral dog charging towards them, but an invincible feral dog. On the healer side of things, I feel as if a DPS that could be switched somewhat easily would probably be Squirrel Girl, as it would probably be a rework that is easier than making Punisher a tank. And we already sort of have a character like that in Jeff. Another good DPS that could possibly get that rework is also possibly Mr. Fantastic, but that one is kind of a stretch. No pun intended. NetEase. If you're watching this right now, I know DPS is the most interesting category and the easiest to put characters into, but please add more tanks and healers into this game to even out the roster, because there are way too many of these characters in this game, and there are still a lot of characters that people want to see that could fit into both the tank role and or the healer role. But please change it, because if I see another lobby where I'm solo tanking and there's 5 DPSs, I'm going to lose it. Now that's going to be the end of the video. Make sure you guys subscribe and like this video. And I know I said it last week, but the France video is coming out next week, normal time. But I'll be making an update on my community tab sometime next week about when exactly this is going to come out. So if you want to see that, subscribe and turn on notifications so you can see that community tab go up. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We will see you guys later. The Crimson Defender out.